Elmer McCurdy was born on January 1st, 1880, in Washington, Maine, to 17-year-old single mother Sadie McCurdy. In an attempt to help Sadie avoid the certain ridicule and gossip that would follow unwed mothers of those times, her brother George and his wife Helen adopted Elmer. After George's death due to tuberculosis in 1890, Sadie and Helen would move with Elmer to Bangor, Maine. It was around this time that Sadie would reveal to Elmer that it was she and not Helen who was his mother, and that she was not sure who his father was. This news would prove to be the turning point in young Elmer's life that would see him begin to start acting out and drink heavily as a teen, which would become a lifelong battle with alcoholism. Elmer would later find himself living with his grandfather in Maine and working steadily as an apprentice plumber. Things were going well enough until losing his job due to the faltering economy in 1898, and adding insult to injury, in August of 1900, Elmer's mother would die due to a ruptured ulcer, followed by his grandfather the very next month from Bright's disease, a type of kidney disease. Soon after, Elmer would begin drifting across the eastern United States, finding work as a lead miner and plumber. But he would find it difficult to hold down any job due to his alcoholism. He would continue on, moving from place to place until joining the United States Army in 1907. Elmer was stationed at Fort Leavenworth, where he was a machine gun operator and trained to use nitroglycerin for demolition. He was honorably discharged on November 7, 1910. On November 19th, Elmer and an Army friend would be arrested in St. Joseph, Kansas, for possessing burglary paraphernalia: chisels, hacksaws, funnels for nitroglycerin, gunpowder, and money sacks. According to the St. Joseph Gazette, Elmer and his friend claimed that they were not in fact burglary tools. Rather, they were used for working on a foot-operated machine gun that the two were inventing. In January 1911, a jury found Elmer McCurdy not guilty. This would lead to a string of poorly executed robberies, where Elmer would try applying his demolition knowledge into his crimes, only to end up usually overestimating the amount of materials needed. In March of 1911, Elmer, along with 3 other men, would attempt to rob a train that was rumored to have $4,000 on board. However, upon successfully stopping the train and locating the safe, Elmer overestimated the amount of nitroglycerin needed to blow the safe, destroying it and most of the loot in the blast, only making off with $450 in silver coins, most of which were melted or fused to what remained of the safe. In a similar event, in September of 1911, Elmer and 2 other men would attempt robbing the Citizens Bank of Chautauqua, Kansas. After 2 hours of tunneling through the bank's wall, Elmer would place the charge at the door of the outer vault. The blast would blow the outer door through the bank, destroying the interior but leaving the inner safe undamaged. After the second charge failed to ignite and the lookout ran off, the men's take totaled just about $150 in loose coins. They would then take a train to the Kansas border where they would split up. Elmer staying in the hay shed of a friend's ranch near Bartlesville, Oklahoma for the next few weeks. The final robbery would take place on October 4th, 1911, near Okessa, Oklahoma, where Elmer and two others would attempt to rob a train said to contain $400,000 in cash. However, they accidentally targeted a passenger train instead, only making off with $46 from the mail clerk, 2 demijohns of whiskey, a revolver, a coat, and the train conductor's watch. Elmer would attempt to drink away his disappointment into the night, not knowing that he had been implicated in the robbery and there was a $2,000 reward for his capture. Just before dawn on the morning of October 7th, 3 sheriffs tracked Elmer to the hay shed using a bloodhound. The 3 would surround the shed and wait for daybreak when a shootout would take place and Elmer would be killed by a single gunshot wound to the chest. Elmer's body would then end up in the possession of Pawhuska, Oklahoma undertaker Joseph L. Johnson. Johnson would embalm the body and, after not being claimed by next of kin, decided to put his work on display, charging the public a nickel to see the bandit who wouldn't give up. The body was dressed in street clothes with a rifle and stood in the corner of the funeral home for the spectators. After becoming a popular attraction, Johnson received many offers from carnival promoters to sell the body, but always refused. But on October 6, 1916, 2 men would contact Johnson, claiming to be Elmer's long-lost brothers, further stating that they had permission to take custody of the body to return it to San Francisco for a proper burial. The men would arrive the following day to claim the body. However, it would later be discovered that they were James and Charles Patterson, owners of the Great Patterson Carnival Shows, a traveling carnival. The corpse would be featured in the show as the outlaw who would never be captured alive until 1922, when Patterson sold the operation to Louis Sonny. Louis would use the body in his traveling museum of crime, then becoming part of the official sideshow that accompanied the Trans-American Foot Race in 1928. Then, in 1933, film director Dwayne Esper used it to promote his film Narcotic. After Lewis's death in 1949, the corpse was stored in a Los Angeles warehouse until it made an appearance in David Friedman's 1967 film She Freak. In 1968, Lewis's son Dan would sell it to Spoonie Singh, owner of the Hollywood Wax Museum, who would exhibit it at a show at Mount Rushmore. And by 1976, the extremely deteriorated body was being used as a prop in a Long Beach, California amusement park. On December 8, 1976, while filming a television show at the park, a crew member attempted to move what he thought was a set prop, but when the brittle arm broke off, human bone and tissue was clearly visible. After a thorough autopsy was performed, the body was determined to be that of Elmer McCurdy, and on April 22, 1977, Elmer was finally put to rest in Guthrie, Oklahoma, 65 years after his death.